This is 8.6a of algebra. So we're going to continue factoring, but here's the difference. Usually we just have an x squared out front. Now we're going to have a number in front of it, okay? So the x squared is going to have a coefficient. So if we look at this problem here, it's going to be sort of similar to what we've done, a little bit different, though. So instead of just looking for numbers that multiply to be 5, what we're going to do is we're going to look for numbers that multiply to 6 times 5, which is 30. So we multiply the first number and the last number together. Okay, and so 6 times 5, that gives me 30. So we got 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. And now my middle number is 13, so I'm looking for the one that adds to 13, which would be 3 and 10. We're not just going to jump right to doing our parentheses like we normally would. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite 13x using those two numbers, so 3x and 10x. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the first two terms and the last two terms, and I'm going to factor them. So 6 is 3 times 2, xx plus 3x. So what can I take from both of those? Well, I can take a 3 and I can take an x. So 3x goes out front, and I'm left with 2x plus, if there's nothing left, I have a 1 left, right? You can multiply 3x by 1 and it's still 3x. Do the same thing on the other side, 2 times 5 times x plus 5. 5 is just 5 times 1. So I can take a 5 from both of those, and I'm left with 2x plus 1. Now, if you think back to the different methods we learned of how to multiply binomials to figure out our polynomial, right? So starting with the parentheses and changing into something like that. There is one method called the distributive method, okay? That's what we're kind of like undoing here. So I'm going to take this stuff that's outside of the parentheses, and I'm going to stick that together. 3x plus 5. And then I'm left with 2x plus 1. And that right there is my answer. Okay, so we're going to do that again. The only thing that's different is that this last number is negative. Remember, when our last number is negative, that's when we have 2 columns of options, right? So we're looking for numbers that multiply to, and remember, I need to do 10 times negative 14, which gives me negative 140. So, first I'm just going to list them as if we were looking for a positive 140. So 1 and 140, 2 and 70, 4 and 35, 5 and 28, 7 and 20, 10 and 14, and I believe that's it. Okay, so we need to actually get to negative 140. So I'm going to make all these first ones negative. And I'm going to make my other list where the second number is negative. And I'm looking for the one that adds to 31. So that's going to be this one here. 31 is positive, right? So my bigger number is going to be positive. So we're looking at negative 4 and 35. So remember, I'm starting with my form. I'm not jumping right to my parentheses yet. First, I need to split this up. So 10x squared minus 4x plus 35x. I'm going to have to factor the greatest common factor out of the front 2 and the back 2. So 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5. We got 2 x's. 4 is 2 times 2 with 1x. So I can take a 2 out of both of those, and I can take an x out of both of those. So 2x goes out front, and I'm left with 5x minus 2. Over here, 35, that's 5 times 7 times x minus 2 times 7. So I can take a 7 out of both of those. And I'm left with 5x minus 2. One comment here. Every time you get these parentheses, they should have the same thing in them. If they don't have the same thing in them, then something wrong happened. Okay, all the ones we're looking at can be factored this way, so you'll always get the same thing in those parentheses. Then lastly, let me stick that outside stuff together. 2x plus 7 times 5x minus 2. And that's your answer. And there's your homework.